Okay, members, we'll kick off and try and get this bit of business dealt with as quickly as we can. You're all very welcome to our reconvened council meeting. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to the Chief Executive to read the notice and summons of meeting and the attendance. Please, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to attend the reconvened meeting of the Council from the 26th of November, to be held remotely today, Friday the 4th of December at 4 o'clock. Alderman Breslin.
There's an apology, John, for Alderman Breslin.
Thank you. Alderman Devaney.
Here.
Alderman Guy.
Here.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan.
John.
Alderman McClintock.
Here, John.
Alderman McCready.
Here, John.
Alderman Ramsey.
Here, John.
Alderman Wark.
Here, John.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Here.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Here, John.
Councillor John Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
And Shaw, John.
Councillor Burke.
John.
Councillor Carr.
Here, John.
Councillor Cooper. Councillor Cooper. Councillor
John will
Cusack.
be on shortly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cusack.
Apologies, John.
Apologies. Thank you. Councillor Dobbins. Councillor Dobbins, that you?
Apologies there, John.
Apologies, thank you. Councillor Donnelly.
And stop.
Councillor Doyle has sent apologies. Councillor Duffy.
And Shaw.
Councillor Durkin. Councillor Durkin. Councillor Edwards.
Here, John.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Ferguson.
Here, John.
Councillor Fleming.
John.
Councillor Gallagher.
John.
Councillor Harkin.
Here.
Councillor Jackson.
And Shaw, John.
Councillor Kelly.
Apologies for Dan.
Thank you. Councillor Logue.
Shaw, John.
Councillor McCann.
Here.
Councillor Maguire.
Councillor McGuire is running late at another meeting.
Thank you. Councillor McHugh.
And Shaw, John.
Councillor McKeever. Councillor McKeever. Councillor McKinney.
Kenny's hoping to join us later, John. He's still currently working.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mellon.
Shaw, John.
Councillor Mooney.
John.
Councillor Riley.
Here, John.
And Councillor Tierney.
Here, John.
Thank you, members. Back
John,
over to you,
Councillor
Mayor.
Cooper is also here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, members. Members, item number 3 is the statement of remote meetings. And I would like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and the media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council's protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purposes of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the Council privacy notice may also be found on the Council website at derrystrabane.com. Councillor Durkin's just arrived on John as well, if you can note her attendance, please. Members, item number 4 is the declarations of members' interest, and as usual, they can be declared now or as they crop up within the agenda. So no declarations of interest at this point. Members, it's not on the agenda, but in terms of Chair's business, there are a number of what I consider important updates that we need to receive from officers. So once we deal with the business that's on the agenda, if members wouldn't mind going and a short confidential session that we receive those updates. That would be much appreciated. Okay. Item number 5 is the notices of motion, and it's Alderman Kerrigan to move.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry. I take me Mayor as read, and I'll be looking for a seconder.
Yep, there was a seconder for
Morris here. Second,
Alderman
Alderman
Devine.
Devine.
Thank you, Morris. Go ahead, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Morris. Mayor, this was a motion I had discussed with officers previous, but I didn't include it at the October meeting, but it's been put forward now. What came up just a few days before Halloween, and I suppose Halloween being such a celebration within the city, but it's the case that there also be a lot of displays in relation with New Year's Day and New Year's Eve and that. And I would pay credit in particular to the council on the display, because that is one that has taken place on the river, as far as I see there, and the displays there, so it's away. But Chair, it's a motion that has been brought forward to me, and I have then put it forward. The RSPCA have it's a motion from their documentation, and they have had as 1,543 calls in recent times relating to fireworks and their effects on animals. Now, while most of us would think of your pets, your cats, your dogs, you know, and I know even there was fireworks took place there in Kiln, just a private display, but I know my own dog, and he's a farm dog, as I would refer to. He was sitting in at my feet and at the kitchen table, and he's a dog that doesn't come into the house, but just the noise of that, and that was quite a bit away, but it still affects the animals. So, Chair, but as well as that, the British Horse Society has made comment there when I researched it that 20 horses have died and another 10 severe injuries and 88 other injuries amongst horses as a result of fireworks and the displays since 2010. So there is currently, Chair or Mayor, there is a petition with the UK government regarding a reduction to the decibel limit. So I know I have noted there 90 decibels there, but there's a petition for reduction to it. It's not just specifying how much, but there is that petition now at present. And in my view, it's the fireworks there, the display, it's more for the visual beauty of it rather than for the noise level. So my motion there, it's calling on the council here to publicise all the public firework displays, which I don't think is too unreasonable. And as well as that we have a warning in relation to the animal welfare and, of course, vulnerable adults as well, Chair, Mayor, and that we write to the UK government urging the introduction of legislation in relation to the decibels of the firework displays, the legal ones, and we contact local fireworks stockists, if we have any within the council, and just make notion of that too. I know, Chair, a lot of these ones that are maybe causing more harm is maybe the likes of bangers, but as far as I would see, they should be illegal anyway, so they shouldn't be there and shouldn't be easily sourced. But Chair, Mayor, that's my motion here stands, and I'm not going to hold you too long. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Members, and this is no reflection on Alderman Kerrigan whatsoever, but can I just remind members of the speaking time? It was remiss of me not to do it while I was raising items on their chair's business, and it sincerely isn't a reflection on Councillor Kerrigan whatsoever. But if members can just remember 3 minutes when proposing a motion and 2 minutes whilst responding to one, please, and thank you. First indicated speaker is Councillor Stephen Edwards.
Mayor, thanks for letting me in. I was going to propose a slight amendment, Mayor, and I think I got it through to the committee section there just before this call, but I can put it into the chat box. I just put it in the chat box there, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Edwards. Can I get a seconder for Councillor Edwards' amendment, please?
Martin, happy to second. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Go ahead there, Councillor Edwards.
Mayor, thanks very much. And again, I'm going to keep it brief as well, given the time constraints. But I fully support what Alderman Kerrigan bringing the motion. I think it is a very important issue, and I, like many other councillors, I would imagine, have got complaints, especially over Christmas. For example, behind my own house, Mayor, there's a farm, and there's fireworks being let off, which was scaring all those farm animals. So I have got a few complaints, and also from the wider Strabane area as well. There's complaints made. And while I do fully support this motion in terms of fireworks being let off on public land, I do think that we need to do more in terms of private land. And for example, there's complaint come in to me that a private house in the Derry DA was setting up fireworks at 5, 6, 7 a.m. And when I do ring the police, Mayor, they come out, but the fireworks have already gone off and they're away and they can't be caught. So I just want to propose this amendment that we do write to the Minister of Justice and the Chief Constable of the PSNI, just to basically see what they're doing across our council area to tackle the misuse of fireworks. And I do note as well, Mayor, that people are selling these fireworks who are not registered retailers. I've seen ads on Facebook and everything of people selling these, which I would imagine they're not properly registered. So, but again, I said I'll keep my comments brief, Mayor. So thanks very much for letting me in.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Ferguson.
Mayor, and I'm happy to fully support the amendment. I was going to come in and speak on the original motion and say where I fully agree that the impact to animal welfare is important. I think with the part in the motion itself I wanted to highlight was when we were liaising with other areas and highlighting the risks of fireworks was to highlight the legal fireworks, because many communities have been tortured over recent months with young ones being able to purchase fireworks, like previous councillor said, through Facebook. I've tried to highlight it through my own community safety forum that anybody who doesn't have a license to sell or set off a firework can be fined up to £5,000. So it's not even just the people that are selling them, the people who are actually letting them off. And there's many of our communities being absolutely distraught with fireworks being thrown into back gardens with children playing in it. So I'm happy to support the amendment and the motion. If we could just work more on highlighting the illegal fireworks more as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Members, at this point, there's no further indicated speakers. So if I can put the amendment to the floor, first and foremost. Can I get some sort of agreement on the amendment? Councillor Donnelly's abstaining. That's noted. Councillor Donnelly. Alderman McCready, agree. Anyone? SDLP, content. Councillor Gallagher, abstain.
We're
noted.
Right, Mayor.
UUP in agreement. Sean Harkin is abstaining. Sandra Duffy, happy to support. Already agree. Yep. All of those abstentions, members, will be noted. And that becomes the substantive motion. And again, I'm assuming that it will be the same. But if anyone has decided to change their mind, which I doubt, can they let me know now, please? No, okay. Just the same vote recorded, John, on the substantive motion, please. So that motion in the name of Alderman Kerrigan with the amendment has both passed. Thank you. Next motion is in the name of Councillor Sean Harkin. Councillor Harkin? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Can I take the motion as read?
Yep. Can I get a seconder for Councillor Harkin's motion, please? Anyone?
Happy to second that. Paul Gallagher.
Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher to second that. Go ahead, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for seconding the motion. I think this is a very important issue for all of us. The Strabane Council has voted on many occasions to oppose any form of privatisation of the housing executive, and I think we should much stick that position.
Councillor Harkin, just bear with me 1 wee second, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Gallagher, yep, thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Go ahead, Councillor Harkin. It was just a bit of interference here, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Harkin.
Well, can you go back to the 3 minutes there? Thanks. Yeah, so I think it's important role in front of us, because the council has voted to oppose privatisation of the housing executive. It's one of the most important reforms that's come out of the civil rights movement, and I think for many people they still continue to see it as a theory. The goal of the housing executive is to provide all communities, and obviously it has been neglected for many decades now through a lack of funding, a lack of concern, and efforts by the executive to try and fully privatise it. People, Nelson Cosman, DUP's plan in 2013, when he put forward a plan to fully privatise the housing executive, and this was opposed by many parties, many campaigners and unions. The housing executive isn't the only issue. We know that we need to have action on the private sector, on bad landlords, rogue letters. Private sector renters need more protection. They need more security, and we need better plans. And I hope that some of the proposals that the minister put forward progress in that front. But on the issue of the executive, I think we have to take a clear and hard about this. The proposal being put forward by the minister for communities, and it appears the executive back in this, is a plan for privatisation to try and change the classification of the housing executive as a public sector body into one that is a co-op or mutual is privatisation, because a mutual or a co-op attempting to access financial transaction capital, you can only do if you are a private entity, and it means that all the housing executive would become those of the private sector. And I think this will be disastrous for accountability, for tenant rights, for workers' rights, and in the end, for to take care of the provision of public housing across the north. So we are in the midst of a massive housing crisis. 30,000 people homeless, 5,000 in our district. There is a massive need to build many and more public housing for social housing, and we need to do that as quickly as possible. There's been far much delay in this, and we have argued for many years that the executive needs to be given the ability to borrow, to build new houses, and also to renovate its existing estates. The executive has other means to do this and could have done it over many years. They decided not to, and now what we're getting is this is a form of privatisation, and the danger here is we allow privatisation of the housing executive. Why not service? Why not public transportation? Why not education? And the dominoes fall. So I think as a council we have to send a message to the executive on the question of privatisation.
Councillor Harkin, can you bring your remarks to a close, please?
I'll close there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. Look, the DUP has no problem in supporting this notice of motion coming forward here. And I hope Councillor Harkin looks favourably on us, that the DUP has ticked one of his boxes here. But look, I think we're all well versed in the housing need in the council area. And look, we have no problem in supporting the motion. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair, let me start by saying, let me be very clear about Sinn Féin's position. We agree with the first line of the proposed motion. We are opposed to the privatisation of social housing. However, the motion goes on to suggest that this is what is being proposed. That is most definitely not the case. And because of that, we will not be supporting this motion. The Minister in her statement made it very clear that she's directing her department to look at options that enable borrowing and retaining the benefits of public ownership, co-ownership, or mutual models that feature tenant ownership. Is this privatisation? No. Under the changes the Minister proposes, the Housing Executive Regional Authority will remain accountable to the publicly appointed board and continue to remain under the oversight of the Executive Minister, meeting objective housing need in an equality and human rights context. The Housing Executive, the landlord side, will be reclassified to a not-for-profit organisation, a registered charity that will be dedicated to the essential public service of social housing. It will be regulated by a public authority, accountable to the public through their assembly. It will also be supported by the regional authority side, the housing executive, that will stay as a non-department public body. People before profit have brought forward this motion without any solutions. It is for them to explain why their proposal would result the choice to either lose 40,000 homes and thousands of public sector jobs in the housing executive, or in the next 11 years of new social homes development. They should be clear, however, that either option will propel the housing stress faster and higher. Neither option is acceptable to me, nor without doubt this council. Only in the Alice in Wonderland world of the people before profit can retaining the benefits of public and tenant ownership mean privatisation. Their attempts to
Councillor Lowe, can you bring your remarks to a close, please?
I certainly will, Chair, certainly will. Their attempts to play politics with this would be comical if it wasn't serious. Again, in this council, we have the people before profit seeking to score political points, spouting empty rhetoric and attacking those who are delivering for the people. Just one more paragraph now, Chair. The housing executive needs to invest 3 million over the next 11 years and 7.1 billion over the next 30 to ensure that their 90,000 tenants are in decent homes.
Councillor Lowe, please, you're well over time now. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I'll finish there then.
Thank you very much. Councillor Durkin.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, Mary, I can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, Mayor. Guramayoga, to keep this short. Yes, we're happy to support, the SDLP's happy to support this motion to reaffirm our opposition, make it clear to the executive that we're opposed to privatisation of the housing executive, and we're happy to invite NIPSA to give a presentation. Indeed, NIPSA had an event last year in the Guildhall, I think around February, and it was attended by different parties and presented a very useful report on the future of housing. So we'll just keep it short and happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durkin. Councillor Donnelly.
Thanks, Chair. Just to say that I'd like to commend Councillor Harkin and People Before Profit for bringing the motion today. Wholeheartedly support it, agree with it, and looking forward to the NIPSA presentation. Like Councillor Durkin, I was at the last one that took place in the Guildhall, and very, very interesting. So like to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I as well would be totally opposed to the privatisation of the housing executive. When I read the Minister's report, I must say as well, there was quite a few positives I took from it. Allowing the housing executive to build and to borrow to fund building, obviously, and an effective and fair allocation policy to me is imperative. One thing I noticed on the report which concerned me was I've seen that there will be a focus on house building in Derry City and Belfast. You know, I sincerely hope that focus applies to Strabane, where housing stress is and has been through the roof for a long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor McCann. Councillor McCann. Councillor McCann.
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Eamon.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Eamon, we can hear you there. Go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh,
yes,
sorry,
go ahead.
I thought I was getting no feedback. Sorry about that. No, I just wanted to comment on one or two things that have already been said. You know, it's been suggested that, you know, this motion from Councillor Harkin would result in the threat to jobs. I think there was some figure put on it, which I didn't quite catch. But to be a threat to jobs, well, there won't be a threat to jobs. But if anyone's terribly worried about that, then can we have an agreement that no matter what happens, there will be no job losses, there will be no drop, no reduction, I think, sort of in the number of people working, sort of for the housing executive in relation to public housing in the north? Can we say that? Can we say, and I'd be very happy with this, can we say that under no circumstances and as a result, if we reject this motion, if we allow sort of the minister's plans to be carried forward, can we say that the wages and conditions of workers now in the public sector, that they will be preserved, that there will be no effort to interfere with them? Can we say now, as a matter of fact, sort of, and give people an assurance that trade union rights will be respected? A whole series of things which a public sector body, sort of like the housing executive, can do and is doing, and they say which cannot be guaranteed if the housing executive moves out of the public sector. And make no bones about it, be under no illusion that the present plan before us, that from the executive, would take the housing executive out of the public service. That's simply a fact. You can talk all you like about charity status, about co-ops and the rest of it. If we not be in the public service anymore, sort of the workers for the housing executive would not be the direct employees of the state. They wouldn't be. There's no messing about that. And to try to reject Councillor Harkin's a proposal on this phony basis would be to show both cynicism and a lack of commitment to the basis upon which the housing executive was established all those years ago. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Councillor Ferguson.
Mayor, we're happy to support this motion because we do oppose the privatisation of the housing executive. We are very aware of the strains that the housing executive is under at the moment, with 30,000 families waiting currently for a house. So we understand it and welcome the minister's comments on trying to restructure in some sense to allow them to borrow money. Obviously, that's from previous councillors' comments. That's the minister isn't trying to privatise. She is trying to find other avenues in which that she can allow the housing executive to borrow. So for me, that they're two separate issues. So we're happy to support this motion on the basis that NIPs are going to come and do a presentation, and the fact that we oppose the privatisation of the housing executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. And again, I'd like to thank Councillor Harkin for bringing this in, because he's quite rightly identified that the moves afoot is to privatise the housing executive. It's to actually cut the housing executive in half and reduce it further and further in order to get rid of the housing executive. That's what it is, and we will be left with the privatisation of our housing, and that's where the weight will be. So I very much welcome that, and I think the opposition to this motion that we hear in the chamber around protecting jobs, this is coming from a party that had no problems in cutting 20,000 public sector jobs under the Fresh Start Agreement and never batted an eyelid. Let that sink in.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Members, at this point, there's no further indicated speakers, so I'm going to invite Councillor Harkin to sum up.
Thank you to everybody who spoke in favour of the motion, and just a few points out of it. One, look, this is not about point scoring. People Before Profit and others opposed attempts to privatise the housing executive back in 2013 when it was a different party, and we are being consistent with that privatisation. That housing, that's what unions are saying. It is privatisation in a fancy wrapper that's actually difficult for people to understand. But once you reclassify the housing executive into a co-op or a mutual, it is no longer accountable in the public sector bodies are. And I understand that there is the executive has been trying to figure out how to fund the housing executive. I think that they've acted far, far too slowly, and that there are other avenues open to them to do that. So, I hope if we get a message from the Strabane Council today to Stormont, to the Minister, she will have a rethink on this and begin to look at other proposals that are being put forward by the trade unions, by housing campaigners, and by people who understand the absolute necessity of public housing. We need to build tens of houses. We need to get on with it. We should have already been doing it. So there are ways to raise that capital to make this happen, and I think that that's where we need to be going. If we privatise executive, it will lay precedent our other public sector bodies, and I think for the vast majority of people that will spell disaster. It'll be bad for workers' rights, it'll be bad for tenants, and it'll be awful for accountability. So I'm hoping that this is a message that is sent and heard in the Department for Communities. I think any supporting this should have a rethink on it.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Members, there's obviously been speakers on both sides of the argument on this, so I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to take us through the vote. John?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Alderman Devaney?
For.
Alderman Guy?
For.
Alderman Hussey? Sorry, I don't think Alderman Hussey is with us this afternoon. Alderman Carrigan?
For.
Alderman McClintock?
For.
Alderman McCready?
For.
Alderman Ramsey?
For.
Alderman Wark?
For.
Councillor Jason Barr?
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr?
For.
Councillor John Boyle?
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle?
Against.
Councillor Burke? Councillor Burke?
John.
Councillor Carr?
For.
Councillor Cooper?
Against, John.
Councillor Donnelly?
For.
Councillor Duffy?
Against.
Councillor Durkin? Councillor Edwards?
For.
Councillor Farrell?
For.
Councillor Ferguson?
For.
Councillor Fleming?
Put on the chat box.
Against, thank you. Councillor Gallagher?
For.
Councillor Harkin?
For.
Councillor Jackson?
Against, John, but can I register an interest as a member of NUPSA?
Okay, thank you. That will be recorded. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Logue?
John.
Councillor McCann? Councillor McCann?
For.
Is that for Councillor McCann?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Councillor McHugh?
Against, John.
Councillor Mellon?
Against, John.
Councillor Mooney?
For, John.
Councillor Riley?
For, John.
And Councillor Tierney?
For.
Thank you,
John.
members.
John, you must know me down has been present for as well. Jim McKeever.
Councillor McKeever, sorry, I didn't pick you up as present first time round. Thank you. Mayor, I have recorded 23 for, 9 against, and no abstentions, so the motion passes.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Members, that motion is passed with the figures that the Chief Executive has just called out there. So moving on to the motion in the name of Councillor McCann.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, let's say this is very simple little motion. It's not sometimes when we're talking about.
Can we get a seconder first before you
sorry.
start, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. Seconder for Councillor McCann, please.
Happy to second there, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Go ahead there now, Councillor McCann.
Okay, I was saying this is a very simple motion. It's not a ringing declaration of principle. It is a modest, practical proposal. And it's an all-Ireland proposal with no constitutional implications. And I would think that in a certain perspective that ought to be welcomed. It tries to express a sort of unity of feeling across the island, transcending whatever differences might arise among us. This motion is not going to overwhelm the NHS or put intolerable strain on housing provision. But here we have, when we're dealing with the refugees, and the motion talks about, we're talking about homeless people far from their own land, to whom we can surely afford to give shelter. We look out the window today, as I'm looking out the window now, it's foul weather in Derry, makes us all miserable. But if you're living in a rag tent on the rocky outcrop of a place far from your home and family, misery would be beyond the imagination of most of us here. 60% of the refugees on Lesbos are from Afghanistan. Now, you don't have to know very much about the long history or the contemporary politics of Afghanistan to know that where there no doubt are variations in contentment and living standards over there, many Afghanis, their country is hell on earth. I mean, they're seeking succor, a safe haven. It should remind us how lucky we are for all our problems. And we've got deep problems remaining to be resolved. For all our problems, how lucky we are to be where we live. We're a decent, welcoming city. We advertise ourselves like that. Come one, come all. Savour the welcome you'll receive in Derry. We put it on television ads. So let's not say now, but for some, don't overstay your welcome. Not if you haven't got the dosh to sustain our hospitality industry. And let me finally say this, that we didn't dream up this motion. I didn't sort of suck it out of my thumb some night and think it's just be an idea to throw it in. The motion comes from, and the suggestion to us, and to me personally, sort of that we ought to put this forward, I mean, comes from some of the relief workers, all of them women, a group of 20 women, sort of a couple of them from Derry, incidentally. Hilda Orr from the waterside is out there working with refugees on the Greek islands, on Lesbos, and they suggested that we do this after it was the Irish government, and not a very generous spirit, agreed to take 400 of these refugees. We were asked if we would try and expand that welcome across the island, and we agreed to do it. So that's all that this motion is asking us to do, and I commend it to you.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor McCann for bringing the motion to Council. I'm going to propose that we make a small amendment, and I've sent it to the committee clerk.
Okay, members, the amendment's there in front of you. Can I get a seconder for the amendment, please?
Seconded.
Sandra?
Yeah, sorry,
Yep.
Sandra.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, in our council area, we've a proud history of standing up to the mark to meet the needs of refugees. I know whenever we invited and provided shelter to those Syrian refugees, I know for one that I was immensely proud of the actions of our council, and this is no different. The amendment is self-explanatory. The Councillor McCann himself indicated that this is an all-island campaign, and we feel that it's only right that we write to the Irish government in relation to this as well, to ensure that the campaign is fully delivered on, and those refugees are found a safe haven. Mayor, as Councillor McCann has indicated, that there's some of these refugees have fled from hell. I know that the Mora reception centre, which was destroyed by fire, was built to house just under 3,000 refugees. At the time of the fire, there was almost 13,000 living there. Those overcrowded conditions, it was no surprise that that reception centre was gripped by COVID, and COVID spread like wildfire through it. The fire itself was a preventable disaster. and it now represents a major challenge for the Greek authorities and for the EU member states, including the Irish government. And Mayor, in terms of cramming any asylum seekers and another mix-up camp is not the answer. So it's only right that we step forward, provide shelter during this holiday period to anyone who is suffering as a result of this humanitarian disaster. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Durkin.
Gur mai good fair be magiculation rinshaw. Yes, the SDLP are very happy to support this, and we also take no issue with the amendment and happy to support Councillor Jackson's amendment proposed. I want to thank Eamon for bringing this motion and for highlighting the campaign, and we're delighted to wholeheartedly support it. We've talked the last few months over different motions in terms of the COVID-19 shining a light on our interconnectedness of communities and populations around the world. We've seen how the poorest populations and people already suffering humanitarian disasters and climate disaster are the people that are most vulnerable and people that are risking being left behind. And, you know, I said before that throughout the pandemic, the old Shanachal, the Irish proverb, rings true. Erskya, a Hela, a Warren, Nadini. Literally, people live in each other's shelters. People survive in each other's shelters. And that applies and captures a sense of community global-wise as well as locally. So, yeah, and Ireland is the island of Céad Míle Fáilte and should be known for its hospitality, as is Derry and Strabane. But this isn't an act of hospitality, it's an act of humanity. This is about survival for these people that have been exposed to the most brutal, inhumane living conditions. And just want to thank and pay tribute to Hilda Orr and the other ladies and people doing the great humanitarian work as referred to in Eamon's opening. So we're very happy to support Gura Míle Mayogav.
Thank you, Councillor Durkin. Alderman Wark.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. First of all, what's happened there is terrible, and I see Councillor McCann mentioned the All Ireland response. Personally, I don't think it's an All Ireland response. It's down to the Republic of Ireland, the Irish government, more or less. The hashtag 400 as more or less goes at the Irish government, and this is an international emergency and it requires international cooperation. But I do feel that all EU countries, including the Republic of Ireland, should step up the mark. Just going back to the UK government, what we supply, there's been since 2010, 41,000 children have been, refugee children have been sorted. Even last year, 7,500 children have been. The UK and Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England is the world leader. So they are when it comes to refugees. But I feel that all EU countries should be stepping up the mark, and that's why this campaign is aimed at the Irish government. As far as I'm aware, more or less since that they've just allocated up to 4 children. Honestly, say they could step up the mark as long as all EU countries. And personally, I do feel that this city and district, at the minute, we're looking at thousands of job losses, housing waiting grow, our food banks, people are queuing for food banks, and I think more or less people before profit can't have it both ways in this year. Obviously, what's happening over there is terrible, but as the DEP will be abstaining from this motion.
Thank you, Alderman Wark. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, as somebody who has seen at first-hand conditions that some of these refugees have to put up with, myself and Councillor Gallagher and a number of others were in Kelly visiting a refugee camp a number of years ago, Chair, and the conditions there were absolutely appalling. You know, when this is humanitarian, and this is, you know, a Christian thing to do, and if people have problems with refugees, one of the first things they should do is call they stop bombing countries with their capitalist policies. You know, I want to commend Councillor McCann for bringing this motion. And, you know, Irish people know what it's like. They have to leave their own country. Welcome this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Ferguson.
Mayor, we in Alliance will be supporting this motion 100%. Thank you, Councillor McCann, for bringing it. I must say, for me, this is a humanitarian issue in the sense of it's not down to one government, it's down to us as human beings. I was a little bit disappointed with some of the comments that I've seen recently online around this. And I feel like the only difference between us and other people in the world that are struggling is the place that we were born, which we have no control over. So I think this is a brilliant motion, and I am happy to support the amendment too. I think every government should be called on to help these refugees when they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be more than happy to support this motion and the amendment as well. Like Councillor Ferguson, I was shocked to see some of the comments on social media today in relation to this. You know, for a province that professes to be Christian and espouses Christian values, it would appear to me that those sentiments, when expressed by someone, appear to be highly contradictory and false. Does sympathy and concern for fellow human beings not extend any further than our own backyard or to those from our own ethnic background? Do we not feel compelled to help those less well off than ourselves? Ironically, at this time of the year, no room at the inn springs to mind. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Sean Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, people often say Derry, the Derry and Strabane Council leads the way on issues. And I think that we should support this and lead the way and back up what campaigners are doing all across Ireland with this call. And as Gary said, you know, the reason why people flee their countries of origin is because of violent wars that are often started by Western powers. And also because of the kind of economic policies that drive people to look for a better life in other parts around the world. And isn't that true of so many Irish people? Many of our relatives and friends living all over the world. And that's why it was very disappointing to hear the DUP councillor or alderman say that they would be abstaining and talk about we have our own concerns with jobs here in our district. I mean, and this is really the rhetoric that we hear from a lot of those people who have been online, you know, saying the most racist, awful stuff. And I don't think it's right that that our any party here should in any way give endorsement to the views of people who are basically, you know, discriminating against refugees and migrants and using all sorts of, you know, arguments about we have to take care of our own in terms of housing and jobs. We have to take care of everybody's needs, housing, jobs. And the reason why people don't have jobs, the reason why people are unemployed, the reason why people don't have housing here in the north or across Ireland has got absolutely nothing to do with migrants and refugees. And this is one of the biggest lies that have been put out by the people who have been racist and refuse to, you know, do the right thing and support humanitarian cause like this. So, you know, I think that the DUP should really have a rethink on this because what they're doing is by saying that they're really echoing what some of the most racist views have been that I've seen online. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Wark with a point of order.
Yeah, just to clarify there, Mayor. I didn't say our party said anything racist, which Councillor Hargan. I'd just like to make him retract that comment.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Wark. Alderman McCready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Firstly, I just need to reinforce the point of Member Harkin, who has conflating what the position the DUP has taken to that of horrendous racist comments which have been done online, which I can state on record now that I would oppose those racist remarks and anything associated with it. So separate the two and don't conflate what we're discussing in here to some of the horrendous things done online. That's entirely separate. Secondly, just to be clear, when Member McCann mentions Afghani is a currency. Afghan is a people. I have been and worked with the Afghan people for a long time, over a number of years. I've been at the cold front with them. I've helped them build schools. I've helped them try and get clean sources of water to be self-sustainable and self-resilient in a turbulent world and an unfortunate position that they are in. So I certainly refute the comments from Member Donnelly about going to Cali and having a look. I have certainly been at the cold face of what this is like, so I have absolute empathy and sympathy with people who seek asylum or refuge. And to be an asylum seeker or refugee has got international status and is recognised, and there are processes in place, and I welcome them to use those processes in place to avail of safe haven. That's absolutely crystal clear. The last point, if I have the time, Mayor, is I work on some of the local issues around the city and district of people who are homeless and have got all sorts of problems. They elected me to get them sorted, and I'm continuing to do so. I cannot prioritise human life of who gets it. The policies are in place with the departmental policies in terms of who gets points and who doesn't. I'll certainly fight for anybody who comes to me and is seeking a house or any help in this city and district. And I do support anybody who wants to avail of the said services from internationally, do so through the correct channels. I'm struggling as it is to help out my electorate, but I do not prioritise human life over another. Or in this case, if we can accept 40, great, why not? But we're in no position as a city to do anything. Member Harkin mentioned about 1,000 people still on waiting lists. I'm really trying to get that sorted. Thanks, Mayor, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Alderman McCready. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, but everything has been said, so it has.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Alderman Ramsey.
Thank you, Mayor. No, just on the back of what has been said there, and the fact that, you know, we've been accused of being racists. Well, I can assure this council that if there's any party locally involved in helping people coming from other countries, it's us. And I'll tell you why, because the MLA office is very busy, and I know that I've been involved on many occasions vouching and helping people from many countries to get asylum, to get whatever they needed for coming to work or live here. So see, whenever you make comments like that, calling people racist, you need to actually find out the facts first. We are a party that helps people from other countries who come here to seek asylum or to live or to work. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ramsey. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. Just to come in and thank Councillor McCann for bringing this motion. Indeed, it's a very timely motion, and I think that this council should be very much supporting it. And as Councillor Donnelly said, yeah, we were out and we visited a camp, and the conditions were atrocious. And anything that we can do to help alleviate that situation, I think we should be doing as a corporate body. And just to say, like, when we were there, we weren't there as invaders. We weren't there carrying arms, and we didn't hurt anybody when we were there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll keep this very brief. When we had the Syrian refugees here at the start, I was involved in a weekly clinic along with Extern, Dove House and the Women's Centre, and I have to say some of the stories that I heard there would make your heart very, very sore. Some of the horrific conditions that people had endured, families torn apart, families living apart, families not knowing where their children were. So these were heartbreaking stories and heartbreaking lived experiences of people sitting in front of me at the time. So I thank Councillor McCann for bringing the motion. I think it is a really good motion, strengthened them by Councillor Jackson's amendment. I would just like to remind people, charity may begin at home, but it certainly doesn't end there.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Mayor, for bringing me in. It's a quick point, I suppose, but one that's relevant in relation to what has been talked about this afternoon. We're asking for this council to endorse bringing people to our council area. I'm also conscious that, has been pointed out already, this is an all-island campaign. That speaks to the motion that I brought, and is some time ago, but is still relevant in relation to the rights of people who have the right to be on the island, but not the right to travel across the common travel area. So what you could end up having is some family members who are based in our neighbouring jurisdiction, and family members based here in our council area who are not able to travel to see each other because of the different common travel area restrictions on our island. So it's just to have that in our minds when we're voting on this afternoon. I think like my colleague Councillor Durkin spoke for the SDLP on this, and we welcome Councillor McCann's motion and will be supporting it. But we also need to be conscious that there's an outstanding piece of work that needs to be done, that the council already has mandated to make representations through to the two governments in relation to resolving existing issues with the common travel area for citizens who have the right to be on the island but don't have the right to travel across it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Members, there's no further indicated speakers, so I'm going to invite. I'm going to put the amendment to the floor first of all, and I'm going to ask John to take us through the vote on the amendment.
Okay, thank you, members. Alderman Devaney.
Abstain.
Alderman Guy.
Abstain.
Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McClintock. Alderman McCready. Alderman McCready.
Abstain, John.
Alderman Ramsey.
Abstain.
Alderman Wark.
Abstain, John.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Barr.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Barr.
Councillor John Boyle.
Barr.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
For.
Councillor Burke. Councillor Burke. Councillor Carr.
For.
Councillor Cooper.
For, John.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Durkin. Councillor Durkin.
For, John, for.
Councillor Edwards.
Councillor Edwards has had to depart due to other business. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Logue. Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McHugh.
For, John.
Councillor McKeever.
For, John.
Councillor Mellon.
For, John.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor Mooney.
For, John.
Councillor Riley.
For, John.
Councillor Tierney.
For.
And I don't know if you heard me. It's Tina Burke here. I'm for.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Um, Mayor, I've recorded 23 for, no one against, and 7 abstentions. So the amendment passes.
Thank you, John. Thank you, members. Members, we now revert back to the substantive motion, and I'm going to invite, at this point, there's no further indicated speaker, so I'm going to invite Councillor McCann to sum up this motion.
Okay, that's it. I thank everybody who supported the motion, and I suppose me speaking at this stage is a wee bit redundant because it's obvious sort of where the balance of opinion lies on the council. I very much regret sort of that it hasn't been unanimous. One other comment I would make is that there are times when I'm very pleased that I do a lot less of social media than other people on the council seem to do. I don't do Facebook, for example, and therefore sort of I don't have to read some of this stuff. But when I look back over, quite a number of years, sort of speaking and operating in public about these matters, some things I look back on, and of course I'm disappointed in myself sometimes. But there are other things sort of I look back and say, "Gosh, I'm proud of that." One of the things that made me proud was to discover just a couple of years ago, in the circumstances that Councillor Duffy just mentioned, somebody made just a petition in Derry, and it was shown to me with 1,000 signatures, and the petition said, "Stop Eamon McCann bringing refugees to Derry." Now, I must say, I can't bring refugees to Derry. I don't have the capacity or sort of the ability to do it. Nevertheless, that was one of the nicest things ever said about me and all the time I've spent in public. There are a couple of the individuals. I welcome Councillor Jackson's amendment. He's quite right. It does sharpen the point that I was making, and it's right, sort of, and it would take the cooperation of the Irish government to make this into a reality. And incidentally, the Irish government doesn't come out of all this affair very, very well. They have not accepted even that small number of 40 refugees to come into their jurisdiction. So there's a job of persuasion to be done, and when we're attacking the British government at times, and I do frequently, we should always remember sort of that there are some people sort of on this island sort of wearing green jerseys who are not sort of altogether blameless in these matters. So let me say, finally, let me say, just a banal sort of and cliched as this might be, just to quote, if I can remember, but sort of the verse of a poem by Emma Lazarus, written in 1893, is on the plinth of the Statue of Liberty. It said, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse on your teeming shores. Bring these, your homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp to light the golden door." Let us, you don't have to be so flowery about it, I suppose, but
Councillor McCann, can you bring your remarks to a close, please?
Thanks very much indeed. Sorry I went on for so long.
No, you're fine, Councillor McCann. Thank you. Members, the vote recorded on the amendment was 23 for and 7 abstentions, no one against it. Are members happy enough that we take the substantive motion the same, or is anyone considering changing how they voted the last time? No? Okay. John, has that been recorded? 23 for and 7 against. That motion sorry, 7 abstentions, sorry. In the name of Councillor McCann, has passed. Members, moving on, items number 6, 7 and 8 are all for information. Unless anyone wants to raise a specific issue out of it, I'm going to take them as read. If members are happy enough.
Chair.
Who's that?
Councillor Harkin.
Go ahead, Councillor Harkin.
Well,
can you tell us what item first and foremost?
Sorry, yeah, it's the responses, or sorry, motions from other councils.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people have had an opportunity to read the letter or the motion that the Carlow County Council passed. I think we should write to them to thank them, and we should support what they're writing and saying on our support for that motion to the Taoiseach. And we passed a motion here in 2017 supporting a public inquiry in the north on the issue of mother and baby homes. I would propose that we write to the executive calling for that to be forwarded.
Councillor Harkin, can you just repeat that last part? You want us to write to the executive asking them to forward a letter that we sent to them, to the Taoiseach? Is that right?
No, there's two parts, Chair, and I'll clarify. One is that we thank the Carlow County Council for the motion and agree with it, and send on our support to the Taoiseach for the demands in their motion regarding the mother and baby homes, demands from survivors. Well, I'm sure everybody's heard about the campaign issues around that recently. And then secondly, our council, the Derry and Strabane Council, passed a motion in 2017 supporting the right of the call for a public inquiry for survivors here in the north. So I think rather than passing a new motion, we already have a motion, it's part of our corporate policy, that we renew that call to the executive to hold a public inquiry on the issue of mother and baby homes in the north.
Okay, Councillor Harkin, and that's a proposal you wish to put to the floor. Can we have that in the chat box, as is the process that we're following now? But whilst you're doing that, can I get a seconder for Councillor Harkin's proposals there?
Martin Riley here, Chair from the SCLP. We're happy to second the proposals as has been read out. Obviously, they'll have to go into the chat box, but we're happy with them. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley, for that. Members, whilst Councillor Harkin is typing up his proposal, can members give me an indication of how they feel around it, or do we need to take it to a vote? Or are people happy enough with it? Rachel Ferguson, happy to support. Sandra Duffy, happy to support. Carlo. Okay. Members, I think that's coming through, that people would like to support it. Alderman McCready would like to read it. It's just above your comment. It's just support the Carlow County Council motion regarding mother and baby home. Sean Kerr, happy to support. Martin Riley. Yep. Okay. Members, I'm going to take that as read. John? Okay. Thank you, members. And no other items coming out of the information. Items number 6, 7, and 8. So can I get a proposer and a seconder to go?
Sorry, Chair. Before you go into confidential.
Yep. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, sorry. It's just to clarify. I see Councillor Harkin has written in the chat box, but it looks like he's only written in part of what he had spoken to. He had also indicated that he wanted a letter to go to the executive. That's not written in the chat box. We're happy to support the letter going to the executive, but for the record, I think he needs. If he's making a proposal, he needs to write in the full proposal into the chat box.
Yep, you're right.
I'm not looking to delay the meeting or to be awkward, but I think for the record, we're
doing that right now.
Thanks.
Yep, you're right, Councillor Riley. And he's putting it on now, but all we've agreed on is the text that's in the chat box. So we'll just give him a minute or so to put on the second part. All right. Okay, members, there is the second part of Councillor Harkin's proposal in the chat box. Members happy to support once again. And there's the full proposal on screen for you, members. And I think people are happy to support that as what it looks coming through. So, John, if that can be recorded, please. So, members, can I get a proposer and seconder to go into confidence? John Boyle.
Seconded Morris.
Morris, thank you both very much, members. Well played.